it. Let's get into the North London derby, man. You mentioned there's a couple of things you want to mention and it wasn't perfect. Let us have it, man. You're the guest.
That front line was like a clown show. It was like you could have put Trossard and Havertz and Sterling in a clown car and they would have come out with the red nose and everything, and it would have looked like, yeah, that's about right. We are such a good team outside of the opposition's box. We're like an excellent side from the midfield back, but obviously there's no Saka. So that makes a huge difference. But to see what we look like without him is really like, and I mean, I can see, but I cannot fathom the Cronkies sitting there, seeing that, and then being like, nah, we good. Because Saka is on crutches still. So it's not like he's around the corner about to come back. We don't need to be running Ethan Nwaneri into the ground when he comes back from injury either. We need reinforcements badly. And they have 15 days, 14 days to get it done. And I'm expecting it to get done.
Go on. I cut you. I was going to ask you a question on the Cronkies.
Yeah, I'm expecting them, especially after Declan, a call to action essentially in his press conference, which I love. Arteta saying, we're going to do something. And honestly, it really shouldn't have taken for Jesus's ACL for them to seem like they wanted to get something done. But I guess that was the trigger. And now Ornstein has come out and said that he's obviously careful with his words because he actually can't afford to get anything wrong. But it was like, basically, it's almost certain that they will do something. And so I'm expecting somebody to come in, and I'm hoping it's not another, weird loan, situation, or I want them to move something forward for the summer. I want somebody that we've been linked to before, or somebody that they've been looking at for a while, for us to bring that forward. Because I don't want to harp on it again, but that summer window was just not enough, so I'm expecting somebody to come in, and they have about 14 days to get it done.
Do you think like the stars are aligning? Because again, I was watching the game, but I didn't see it. But people are telling me Josh Kroenke was there, as you said, and I agree with you. Declan Rice with a call to action. I think Mikel Arteta has changed his terminology in relation to transfers and seems quite desperate. Do you think all the stars are aligning and we're actually going to get somebody in January? And why has it got to this point? Because me and you are a broken record. We've done many a video, even if everybody's fit and we, get well soon, Jesus. But if everybody's fit, me and you will still talk about a winger and a striker. Why has it got to this point as well then?
I just think they were never prepared to do business, and they literally have to be without a single option to make it. I think it's negligent to have come into the season without someone, but you just see, you see what they're about. They're very much, first of all, I think they overrate our players. I think that's the first thing.
Arteta or the Cronkies?
I think the club in general, the supposed football people overrate the group. They think they came into the season thinking that we had enough, and anybody could have told you that we did not. And they never operate from like a worst case scenario. I think they operate for the best case scenario. That's the only way.
It doesn't rain, rather than buying a jacket and an umbrella.
100%, because that's the only way that you go through multiple seasons without backups for Saliba, Odegaard, and Saka. You have got to be always thinking that things are going to go our way. Facts. And being positive is one thing, but not having a plan B or a backup or preparing is another thing. It's preparing to fail. We all know the saying. So we've come into our worst case scenario, and that's pretty much the only way that they were going to operate. And it should have never gotten to this. It really should have been done in the summer prior to. But now we're in a situation where it's going to be really difficult to get somebody in unless we overspend. And you can't be knocking on people's doors trying to take their good players and then being like, yeah, so we want to do a loan. No.
You got to put your money where your mouth is, essentially.
Yeah, you have to, and listen, they're saying we don't have any problems with PSR. We're fine financially. So put the money on the table. Get it done.
I'm with you with that. But let me be devil's advocate, yeah? Obviously, we know the Cronkies, like, you're American, with the greatest of respect. We know they've come to love football, or soccer as they probably call it. Yeah, it's not really like NBA and NFL, and you can see what their teams are doing, right? If I play devil's advocate, we know what they do. They put the football in, or the knowledgeable people in place. They leave them to it. Is it fair to get at them in that regards then? Because we have spent a lot of money, you know. Kai Havertz cost 65 million. Like, is it fair to the Cronkies to say that then, Jess?
I feel like if they're my biggest, he's out of control. My biggest,
He's agreeing with you, man. He's agreeing with you, man.
I think when it comes to the Cronkies, where I like differentiate them from the footballing people and like whose fault is what, is if the Cronkies are not ambitious and they basically only spent money up until the point of now, then to me it's a problem. You know, to me, if they're saying, okay, we've gotten you into top four, now we're going to stop spending, we're going to do self-sustaining, which that's what it feels like it is. The last window did kind of reek of one in, one out, you need to sell to buy. If that's the case, then they lack ambition, and this project is built around the same principles that it was built upon the entire time that we've been at the Emirates. Self-sustaining, top four, nothing more. We're not going to push. That's where I would, look at them. But in terms of what they've done so far, they have offered enough where we should have the pieces that we need. We don't have the pieces that we need, mostly because we haven't recruited well enough. I just think that goes down to the football people. And we spoke about this the other day, is as time is going on, when we get away from the Rauls and the Mislintats and the Edus, and we're going into the Garlicks and the Lewises and these guys, we're moving away from football people to lawyers. And they're trying to mitigate risks by not buying or only buying
And that's a risk
expensive
in
players.
itself.
Yeah, not buying anything outside of Prem proven and, just waiting. And as we've moved further along, I think we've gotten away from the plot. I really want to see us push for football, more talent, more aggressive, every window trying to improve. But it does kind of feel like they're trying to just keep the pockets tight. They're trying to keep a close grip on it. And it's starting to manifest itself on the pitch.
So where you at with Arteta then? Because obviously, Saka is Saka. And again, being devil's advocate, as you said, from the back upwards or into midfield, we're somewhat all right. Defense probably, especially. In fact, our defenders look more likely to score than our attackers 9 times out of 10. And obviously, Saka's the star boy. Ethan's obviously was a shining light prior to his injury. But when you look at it, Arteta's not really got the best of hits where it comes to attackers. So how much is down to him? Because his best player is someone that came through the academy in an attacking sense. And he has spent money. So how much is his fault?
I think one, I would imagine that he would want to be in a scenario where he has a lot of power. So I don't really blame him for taking it. It'd be rare for a manager to say, yeah, you're trying to give me all this power. I don't want it. So I think the club is culpable for giving him too much power too soon. But in terms of like where he's probably made a mistake, it's backing his coaching just a little bit too much, buying players that aren't necessarily perfectly suited and then wanting to coach them into something different and just completely ignoring certain parts of the pitch, and thinking that you can coach non-clinical players to be clinical, coaching, non-strikers into strikers, those types of things that just
square pegs and round holes.
100%. And so, yeah, I think that's probably one of the things that he has to look at and say, can I just simplify my life a little bit more and just get those pieces? So, if our patterns of play aren't working, 9 times out of 10, those patterns of play open up good opportunities for us and we create enough chances. But when it doesn't work out, we need a plan B. And the plan B is having players that can create their own chances, score goals, make something out of nothing.
Facts.
And he doesn't give himself that. Also, it's the change of style. I think he can look at himself for that. He doesn't quite strike the balance enough for me. It's either, for the most part, for the last 2 years, it's just been a little bit too rigid. And I think that's all down to Mikel and his mentality. I'm not saying that he doesn't want to win. I think he almost wants to win too much in a way where he's holding it so tightly that he won't just relax a little bit. And you got to let your players do their thing. You have to give them a little bit more freedom. You have to let
freedom within the framework, especially in the final third.
100%. And we found that, at the back end of last season. I don't quite think that we've gotten it right at the beginning of this season, but creating chances wasn't our problem in the last 3 games.
It's
to
putting the
me.
ball, hardest thing to do, putting the ball in the back of the net. And I,
Yeah.
I, I echo your point because I feel it's one where you can't look at it one way. I think you've got many Arsenal fans that will just slag off the team, draw them out, etc., etc. And then you've got fans that will tell you about the XG, about the chances created. I personally think they fall into this trap of seeing double figures for shots, very few hitting on target. Now, in the Spurs game, we only had 4 shots on target. Now we got 2 goals of that. That's great. But I think that is the problem in that we're creating chances. The vast
Mm.
majority of them are not really quality chances. And then the ones that are, is falling to players that really and truly it's a gamble. Like big up Trossard, he had a great goal and a great turn and all those things. But we could be sitting here against Aston Villa speaking about a missed chance. And me and you have spoken about Kai Havertz. So I'm with you in that it's incompetence. I'm definitely with you in that. I like Mikel Arteta's coaching. I think he is a good coach. Whether he's the guy to get over the line is another thing. It's just there's no plan B. We don't go up the gears. We kind of commit to the same kind of logic. So it's almost like, I don't know how you feel, but do you feel like a lot of our issues on and off the field to a degree are self-inflicted? Because we've known about these issues for a while.
I think that I definitely think they're self-inflicted. I don't think that, you can look at anything that we've done and say that most of it is out of our control, or that there wasn't an opportunity to make sure that if this bad thing happened, that we had something to fall back on. So I think a lot of this is self-inflicted, and I'm not quite sure why we've gone down this path. Again, it's not that everything is nuanced, right? We're talking about a team that is 1 or 2, maybe 3 players away from being one of the best in Europe.
Is that what
So
you
I'm not.
believe?
Yeah, I do. I think that back part, that back team, like all of that from like Declan Rice back, that's good. That's good. I don't see very many other teams that
I
have
don't think you're wrong.
better than what we have going that way. Up front is really where the difference is made. So it's not really like,
Yep.
even though it's like 3 players, that's still a lot in retrospect, but everything is not bad. But the fact that, we've had these issues, it's like, can we just get it done? Let's get it going. And I think the day that we
Bang on the
get,
money.
yeah, I think like the day that we get that winger and that striker, if we ever do get it, it's gonna be so obvious that I think we'll be relieved, but also disappointed that it didn't happen sooner. Because I just think it's so obvious that we need that. Like,
I think we'll
we
need
don't-
something else by the time we actually do it. We're in love with an unfinished project, in my opinion, man. I can't
yeah,
lie.
but I think with reliable attackers, there can be other holes in your team. Without reliable
Can get
attackers,
out of
you have
jail.
to be perfect. And we don't have that ability to be perfect. We're perfect at the back end of last season and we still didn't win. So it just leaves you with not enough wiggle room,
The
so
small margins and fine margins that our club loves to waffle about, but for me,
yeah.
it doesn't address these things, and it means we ultimately come up short. We have some great runs, even now. Like as much as I agree with the questions over Mikel Arteta. I do. For me, I think he's a good coach. All of that stuff. My conversation is, can you get us over the line? That's the nuance, and I can understand with fans. As much as we're moaning, at the end of the day, we're second. We're still in the Champions League. There's like we still are quite. There's many positives, which is for me makes me more angry at the club because we
Yeah.
have made progress, but ultimately during this Emirates era, there's nothing of significance. And as you said, the FA Cup, we threw it away. In fact, let's touch on that, man. Like, do you feel the best chances of trophies were thrown away last week? Apologies.
Yeah, I do. I think, especially when it comes down to the Carabao Cup. I know that Newcastle is not an easy team to beat, especially when they're in the best form. But when I think about the fact that we weren't even outplayed. They had
Out
2
outclassed.
chances, then they put it away, and we had chances, and we just couldn't hit a barn door. As good as Newcastle were, we still probably should have won that game. So,
United definitely as well, but big up both of
yeah.
them teams.
So you don't have to be the best team all the time to win a cup competition. I think 3 games away from winning a Carabao Cup is the closest we are to a trophy, and we really messed up that home leg. Like it's pretty much over. So yeah,
Facts
I think in the FA Cup it's a little bit different because we don't know what would happen beyond that. There's still more rounds to happen, but to go out the way that we did
to 10 men.
was horrendous. It
Horrible.
was a low point of the season. And so, yeah, but I think we tend to do better when there's the option to draw. And what I mean by that is we're a better league team. which sounds weird because we haven't won the league, but we're a much better league side than a cup side. If there's an opportunity to draw,
Margins
I
are
think
smaller.
we're better. Yeah, exactly. Like we can draw against Liverpool, we can draw against City, we can do those things. We can beat, the likes of Chelsea at home, and we can, get something away from home. But if it is a do or die or win or go home, we don't get the win. And that's where the mentality needs to change. We are a
We're a good
good
team. We're
league
not a great
side.
team. I agree. Like
Yeah.
that's what's stopping us getting significant
Mhm.
trophies. I got to ask you though, because you said it there. We're more of a league team. Obviously, we are still in the Champions League. There's a lot of football to be played. We know about the injuries, but Liverpool are still competing in quote unquote in everything.
Yeah.
I have to be one of those fans in order to, get where your viewpoint is. Could this make us stronger in the league? Obviously, the form might have changed. One game a week type of thing. Liverpool are competing in everything. Could this mean we're more likely to win the Prem? Raya seems quite upbeat on that as well.
Yeah, I think with the thinness of our team and how basically like we're at the bare bones, it should, in theory. My only thing with that is only if the players and the manager thinks that. I don't really care if the fans think that. I think when the fans say it, it's more coming from a place of copium. But if
Facts.
if the players are thinking, yeah, we're out of the FA Cup, but that means that we can really push in the league, and from here on out, we see performances that echo that feeling. Because if Raya's out here like, yeah, and then we turn around and are horrendous, then I'm be like, what are we, like what are we talking about here? So yeah, I think the club needs to act. I think the players need to act. I think the manager needs to act, and it could end up being a positive. um but it puts more pressure on you to win one of these big trophies. So
Yeah. And I want to be wrong, as I'm sure every Arsenal fan that shares my viewpoint is. I always say I think the Prem is improbable. I know mathematically it is what it is, as you kind of alluded to. As long as there's a chance, players go as far as they can. I think it's
mm,
improbable. I think the Champions League is impossible. I don't think we have enough in terms of quality. I don't think we've got that X factor. I think our manager, as much as I like him from a coaching aspect, hasn't showed the versatility that I need as well. A couple of people like kind of were talking while you was talking in the chat. Make sure you're smashing the like button and subscribing to the channels. Yeah. What do you feel about Arsenal under pressure? Because I agree with these two comments. I think Jerome has said we always crumbled under pressure in the Emirates era. And there was another one. It's playing under pressure. We have that issue for 16 years. Now, I have seen times where we have performed under pressure, but I agree with them. It does feel like when the pressure's really on, we're in trouble. But where are you at with that?
oh, we're not a do or die team. We're
Mentality
just
monkey
not.
type shit. Yeah, we're
Yeah,
not.
we're not.